Hi, my name is Scott. I wrote a book that I'm not actually promoting right now because it's still in beta, but I just starting to get disappointed with all the AI stuff out there, and I decided I'd talk a little about reality and the logic of science. I'll refer to my book just because that helps me. That's kind of a crutch for me so that I can know what to talk about. See if I can make this as big as I possibly can without being too ridiculous. So my issue is that there's not a lot that's out there that's real anymore. At least certainly my Facebook feed has become extremely toxic in the last 9 months, and there's no coincidence as to why that is 9 months ago. Um, and But this is not a political rant. One of the biggest reasons that it's not real anymore is because of artificial intelligence and science. And so let me talk a little bit about science and the limits of science and logic. The problem, people complain, oh no, it's not real anymore. And I have to kind of back people up and say, look, let me see if I can find my reference here, because because there's an awful lot that's not real out there, and it doesn't matter. Jung says that subjective experience is also a valid fact as an experience for the individual who has it. As a matter of fact, uh, an experience is more important than reality. If you have an experience, um, that's how people change. And obviously, experience can be hurts you or traumatizes you, but you can also have spiritual experiences. Those are real. And in many ways, I want to kind of argue against my own irritation, which is that everything out there is not real anymore. The truth is that nothing is real. And people are really spiritual beings living in a material world, not living machines, that happen to have a virtual world available to them. We are spiritual. I think one of the reasons saw this recently on well, it's Nova experience, keeping us podcast is that we talk about the fact that reasons why people, Homo sapiens, have succeeded and other branches of hominids have not is because we are more virtual, we are more spiritual beings, and so interestingly enough, science and logic, as much as it's gotten us where we are today, it's not very important to us. When you uh, when you consider the fact that people, when it really comes down to it, and you have a death in the family, or somebody is injured, or something terrible happens, or there's a tragedy, it turns out that um, spirituality is the only thing that really helps people. Your science teacher is not going to help you make you feel better about your mother's passing, or the car wreck that killed your friend, or all these things. These difficult things are not handled by logic and science. They're handled more by spirituality. Um, Modern culture tends to deprecate the subjective inner experience because it is not physically real, but subjective experiences such as emotions are far more important. You know, the thing is that for instance, the fact that gravity holds our planet in orbit around the sun, it's great. It keeps us alive, but it's not important. A powerfully subjective experience, Jung says, influences us more than any fact developed by science. That is why, even though faith in God or scientific theory is undeniable, the practical experience more powerfully affects human beings. And when I say faith, I don't try and I'm not going after religion. I'm going after faith. Faith is great, but experience is more helpful and healing. And I think that we find that if we've had a healing experience, we are healed. If we have a faith experience, I don't know. It doesn't mean faith can be broken, experience cannot be disproven. Science cannot tend to your soul when a person close to you dies, but a subjective experience of caring can make all the difference. Rather than saying that the scientific factor or inner experience is better, we see that inner and outer experience depend upon each other. But the fact is that science depends on the inner experience to exist. When we are born, we are unconscious, and over time, as we grow up, pieces of our ego begin to emerge, um, which kind of mimics the way that we used to be when we were forming as human beings hundreds of thousands of years ago. And so you can see what people were like, 100,000 years ago if you watch a child running around the playground. And so science itself develops as the ego develops, and it is born out of the unconscious. And in fact, Einstein himself said that there are limits to logic and science because all of the great ideas from science come from intuition and from creativity, which is not scientific or logical. And so there are a lot of limitations to what science can do. Science operates as fact. It does not care about opinions, and this is the problem. Um, this is the problem that we are faced with. Rationality is helpless also in the face of irrationality. Science doesn't seem to be able to do anything about that. Um, and so we become um slaves to science, whereas we are not slaves to the spirit. And I think that what I'm mostly saying here is that uh, not about the fact that there's so much now on the internet that's not real. Most of what's important to people is not real anyway. It's more subjective in the psyche, and that's the way it should be. If we were just fully rational and everything had to be literal, it would be pretty boring. But that is not the way things are. And I don't know if I have anything more to say about that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there, and I would tell you to go buy my book, but it's not for sale yet. It helps to see when it's finally out there. So take care. Namaste.